Hello and welcome. We're really thrilled to be back here once again with Austin Community College and the Creative Writing Department for their Literary Coffeehouse. I'm Becky with Malvern Books. So we're doing this virtual event. It's the first time we've welcomed them back since March, I think. So we're thrilled to be here. Tonight, our host will be Joe Hoppy, a longtime faculty member with ACC's Creative Writing Department, and the featured reader be the wonderful Nicky Drayden. Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Becky. And it's great to be back in Malvern. Good evening, literature lovers. My name's Joe Hoppy. I am a professor at Austin Community College. I'm here to introduce the illustrious Nicky Drayden. Here's her bio. Nicky Drayden is a systems analyst who dabbles in prose when she's not buried in code. She resides in Austin, Texas, where being weird is highly encouraged, if not required. Her award-winning novel, The Prey of Gods, is set in a futuristic South Africa, brimming with demigods, robots, and hallucinogenic hijinks. And with her new novel, Escaping Exodus, she takes her weirdness off-world to a civilization living inside the gut of a moon-sized space beast. See more of her work at www.nickydrayden.com or catch her on Twitter at Nicky Drayden. And after Ms. Drayden reads, we are going to be hosting questions. So if you have interesting questions for our author, you can type it in after her reading. So take it away, Nicky.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here. Today, I will be reading a little bit from Escaping Exodus. It's my third novel, and like we talked about, it's kind of Afrofuturistic novel set aboard the inside of a giant space beast. So I like to call it body horror, but make it homey, because everything is very squishy and lots of organs, but it's all very normal to the people who live aboard this beast. And I'm gonna be reading from the second chapter. There's two point of view characters. One of them is Seska, who is the heir to the matriarchy. And she's kind of a reluctant heir. And the other, her friend, a really good friend, is Adala, the other main character who I'll be reading today. And she is what we call a beast worker, one of the people who labor directly with the beast in various organs. And she's just been promoted to work in the heart, which is like the most prestigious organ that you can work in. And it's also very risky, a very dangerous job, and she's really excited to be going there. And her mother also works in the heart, and her mother is kind of very strict and loving in her own way, and so it's hard to please her. So you'll see a little bit of that relationship here, and I will start reading. Her Alma is her name, the mother's name, or that's what they call it. Alma, you're sure I'm ready for this? I ask her, real quiet, once we're back on the move. Aren't there some kind of tips you can give me? You're ready for this, Alma says. She smiles, but looks at more like she's holding back a mouthful of sick. Sure is sure. The missing sure doesn't go unnoticed. With beast workers, sure is akin to a very soft maybe. Sure is sure means you'd stake your life on it. And sure is sure, well, that's something drenched in doubt. Not a hard no, but about as close as you can ride up to it without it biting your head clean off. I want to pry, wondering if it's just a general nervousness she's feeling or if it's something I need to be worried about. I spend a few minutes trying to think up a way to question my Alma without my earlobe ending up in another one of her vice grips. But then the ground starts trembling before me. I brace myself against the side of the wall, nervous about another one of those tremors we've been having. And oh, blessed mothers, Alma laughs at me so hard, she's got tears in her eyes. I'm about to grab Alma's hand to try to save her life, despite how small she makes me feel. But then she says, That's no tremor, girl. That's the beat, the heartbeat of the beast. Once every 3 minutes and 47.5 seconds. Remember that. Remember it better than your own name. How's that, girl? The beast's heart beats once every 3 minutes and 47.5 seconds, I report back, serious from the tips of my braids to the toes in my boots. I've been begging my Alma to take me to visit the heart since forever, but she's kept that side of her a secret from me. And now look at me, so close. I go to set my watch to show her I'm being proactive about keeping proper time, but Alma takes one look and her face goes blank. Who gave you that? Was it Matrix's girl? That kind of gadget will get you killed faster than a murmur sucked up the valve. Sonovan, I say with a shake of my head. My tin uncle, adopted father, whatever you want to call him. My head mother's almost but not quite husband after my pie died. He made it for me out of a bunch of discarded parts. Didn't cost him anything, if that's what you're worried about. I've got a sore spot for Sonovan, sure. And that must have come out in my tone, because now Alma's cold, open hand is speeding towards my cheek. And I've got about 3/8 of a second before the slap lands. And I can decide to take it and have this be over and done, or I can make this a thing. A thing. It's going to be a thing, betcha. I pull back just out of her reach, and Alma goes swirling. I reach out, catch her in my arms right as she loses her balance. Now, don't go cursing my tin uncle, Alma. He didn't mean any harm in this, just thought it would give me a hand up. He knows how important this is to me, to us. I set my Alma firm on her feet, and oh, the smolder in her eyes. I can feel the heat from where I'm standing. Girl, she says. One word, but she drags it out into at least 3 syllables. And I'm holding back all my urges to protect my soft spots. She keeps staring for so long, not letting up. Finally, she says, beat. Half a second later, the ground trembles again. 3 minutes, 47.5 seconds is not something you can time on your wrist. It's something that needs to be timed in your soul. Sonovan, bless his fathers 9 and 9 generations back, is a good man. He's great at fixing things and mending things and doing men's work, but he knows nothing about the heart. How are you going to waste time glancing up and down at a gadget when there's 100 different checks and balances needing to be done and in between each beat? Or sweat gets in your eye and you misread a dial and missealing a valve, or you nick an artery, and all of a sudden, we're all dead. Get me, girl? Betcha, Alma, I say, slipping the watch back off my wrist and into my pocket. Feel it, girl. Every time, every second before, I want you to scream out, beat. Be more than 5 seconds early, and you line up for lashes at the end of the day, 1 for each violation. And if I'm late, never be late. You're late, and we're all as good as dead. Sure is sure is sure. Alma herds me along with a handful of recruits through the dank, dark twists of rerouted arteries. It smells heavily of Icar in here, the floor still slick with its oily blue residue. I mind the countdown timer entwined with my soul, trying to keep step with a steady rhythm. Beat, one of the other recruits yells, a whole 15 seconds early. So early, she nearly throws me off my own count. She's nervous now. We all are. 3 beats ago, another one of the recruits had been late. The heart mothers had held the girl down, and one by one, they cut the girl's braids from her scalp. I'd stood there watching in horror as her identity was ripped from her, her history erased. For hundreds of years, that same pattern had been braided upon our ancestors' heads, representing the constellations we'd drawn in the sky, our people traveling freely among the stars. All these centuries later, our sky has changed, but those braided patterns hadn't, and now it would stop with her. The girl's own Alma had sobbed and wept, watching her family line come to an end. The weight of such a shame for such a minor infraction seemed cruel. I wanted to comfort the girl, to comfort the Alma too, but we left them where they were. Beat, scream out 2 more recruits, still a tad early. Then several more sound off. My own heart is beating fiercely, waiting for the 5-second mark, and not a moment later. When finally I gather everything and scream out, beat! I count the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thunder rumbles all around us. We are sure-footed, and as the Almas have taught us, and wait for the trembles to subside. For the first few seconds that follow, everyone is quiet, no one breathes, and all is sacred, feeling the connection we all share to the beast. Then we're on the move again, like it never happened. Some of the other Almas glance at me, impressed that I've never been more than 5 seconds early, but not my Alma. She acts like she hasn't even noticed, just yells that I'm walking too slow, or gawking too much, or breathing too loud. Some of the other recruits start yelling beat right after me, like I'm their crutch. The Almas are quick to catch on, though, and the recruits get scolded. No promise of a lashing, but girl, if tongues could sting like the strap of fresh beast leather, they'll be filling those words for days to come. We continue trudging through the maze for 4 more beats, knives always at the ready. One of the few sets of instructions they've given us. Not for protection, but if we get caught by the Icar's current, we are to press the blade deep into our stomachs. They show us just where, marking an X on our dresses. Death would be swift, they promise, and it would make the knife easier to retrieve later. The metal is more precious than our lives, though I've known that since before I could count. The artery butts up against a bone-carved door inset into the flesh of the beast. We wait there, call out the beat, half of us on time, the others early, but not obscenely so. The beat comes, and then 2 of the Almas twist open the door with their wiry muscles, herding us quickly through as the Icar dribbles over the door's eave. We cough as a sweet stink of copper overwhelms our lungs, and we tear up at the acrid sting in the air. The Almas stand and stare at us knowingly, waiting for us to come to our senses. It takes a full minute for most of us, but the one called Tanika is wheezing so hard I think she's going to pass out. None of the Almas seems concerned enough to even ask if she's okay, but I catch the slightest tremble in the Tanika's Alma's lip. I don't want to let another of us fail, another name added to the list of the shamed, so I slide over to her, wrap my arm around her, breathe in and out, setting a rhythm for her to follow. She follows along with me, and soon her eyes become less glassy, her cheeks a less blanched shade of brown. She nods me away when she's okay. Suddenly, something grips me, like I've been holding my breath too long, and I yell out, beat! The others frantically follow, and the beat comes not a second later. You let yourself get distracted, girl, my Alma says to me immediately after. Only one heartbeat matters, and that's the beast's. If we start mourning our dead where they lie, there will be no one left to mourn us. I bristle all over. I try to bite my tongue. Oh, blessed mothers, I try. You're saying we should have just stood there and watched her die? There's always one or two who can adjust quickly enough to the scent of Icar. Better to root them out when their stakes are low. Speak out of turn again, girl, and I'll lay shame to our family line just as fast. We continue on at a brisk pace through another set of doors, trudging through knee-deep Icar. The Almas are all behind us, herding us forward. Rage burns in my heart. I thought I'd grown resistant against Alma's cold, cruel demeanor, but turns out I'd fully underestimated it. Tanika brushes my elbow, and I look back at her. She dips her head at me, a silent thank you, then she smiles. If nothing else, at least I've mattered to her. That calms me some, betcha, which is good because then I notice the Icar that had once flowed along with us has suddenly ebbed, lowered from shin high to ankle deep in the course of seconds and is streaming back against us. Unlike the last artery, this one's tacky all over. The walls, the ceiling, it's active. And whatever it does when the beat comes, it's about to do it. I glance behind me to get direction from the Almas, and they're all a ways back, cutting deep gouges into the wall. Beat, I yell out, a whole 20 seconds too early, but it's the only way I can warn the others without shaming my family out of existence. The others startle, then notice everything I've noticed, and we all take our knives and start cutting. I copy my Alma's movements best I can. 2 deep arcs into the flesh, then cut behind them to form a handhold. I slip my arms in and hold on for dear life. The thunder comes, and for a brief moment, the Icar on the floor is only inches deep. Then a wave rushes past us. Instinctually, I hold my breath as we had done so many times during practice, though from the gasping all around me, not everyone has been so thoughtful. The oily flow grips at me, bids me to get washed away. I hug that little strip of flesh like it's my closest friend, hoping my cuts hold just a few seconds longer. But in all my fear, all my dread, something springs forth in my heart, a feeling that I'm in a place I belonged all my life. Suddenly, I'm not clinging on for life because my life is not something so significant to cling to. Life is what's flowing all around me. I feel it as it moves past me, so much of it. I'm blessed enough to have had so many generations come before me, sacrificing everything for me to have this very moment. And yet it's over all too soon. I will have other moments, many other moments like this one, but there will never be another first. The flow of Icar is at my shins again. I unlatch myself from the wall facing the Almas. My Alma sees me, sees the light in my eyes, and somehow I understand her now. Her face is still covered in Icar, but I see her brow bunch. Then everything in her face loosens and she's running to me, wrapping me up in a hug so tight, so warm, I don't know what to do with myself. You felt it? She whispers into my ear. I nod. I don't know what it is, but I definitely felt something I can't wait to feel again. She turns to the Almas and they all stand looking at me, dumbstruck. She felt it, she screams at them. On the first day, in the first hour. I turn to accept the praise of my cohort, but of the 8 of us, only 5 remain. Tanika and 2 others are nowhere to be seen. Some time ago, maybe as short as 30 minutes ago, I would have cried about such a cruelty, wondering why they hadn't better prepared us before throwing us to this murderous organ. But now I understand. Once you become one with the heart's beat, there's no going back to how life was before. It's hard to explain, but it changes you. It becomes a part of your soul. And to be turned away from the heart after feeling its all-encompassing grace would be the biggest cruelty of all. That is that piece of chapter. So, yeah.
Bye-bye.
That was wonderful. It was so great. Joe, are you? Yes, you're unmuted. So
I am unmuted.
Okay.
So we don't have any questions yet, so I'm going to interview you a little bit. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. And things I always wonder. First off, I've got to ask, why science fiction? Now, this is your 4th book, right?
This one is my 3rd book.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, and you've got your 4th is going to be published in February.
Right.
And tell everybody, I forgot your publisher.
Harper Voyager is my publisher. I've got The Brave Gods, Temper, Escaping Exodus, and then Escaping Exodus Symbiosis will be out in February next year.
Excellent. So why science fiction?
Why not science fiction? Let's see. I enjoy just exploring a lot of fantastical ideas, projecting like current issues upon future societies and seeing how they react to things differently or different ideas that they have. And it just gives you a space to kind of more freely explore what's on your mind. And it's just kind of what I've always consumed since I was a kid. Reading in horror, science fiction, and fantasy have all kind of merged. And this is kind of a little blending of all of those things. I started off reading a lot of Stephen King, like when I was a kid, and was always into like Star Trek and all of those types of things were just like seeing what the future was like. And I don't know, I just enjoy it. And I think it's just a fun playground to pretty much do anything you want to do.
Okay. What was the book, or what was the moment when you said, I can do this?
I can do this. I think my I can do this happened when I was never like a big writer. Like I did creative writing classes like here and there, and I enjoyed it, but it was never like this drive to like, you know, create these novels or whatever. And the thing that sparked me actually was that I saw in, there was a news clip about National Novel Writing Month, which starts in November, which is right around the corner. And it's a challenge where you're, you know, set aside all the things that are holding you back from writing the novel that's in your heart. And you just set those things aside for a month and then just like really concentrate on writing a large work of fiction. And I thought that idea sounded really cool. Like I've kind of like, you know, tossed the idea around, but never very seriously. And I like a challenge. Like that's one of my favorite things, is just like to someone to say, do this. And I'm like, okay, let's see if I can do this. And so like I did it. I wrote my first novel in like 22 days or something like that, which is now sitting at the bottom of a drawer. Very nicely. And so I wrote several novels before The Prey of Gods. I think Prey of Gods is probably like my 5th or 6th novel that I've actually written. But it just sparked like such creativity and freedom, and not having to like censor yourself, or, you know, not even necessarily having to have a plot going into it, because a lot of the times I don't. For Prey of Gods, I actually just had 6 character sketches and kind of a setting that I wanted it to be in South Africa. And that's all I knew going into it. And like, how are these 6 characters gonna like make a plot? And I just stuck them on the page and like let them loose to see what they would do. And it was really fun, and I really enjoyed how it came out.
Wonderful. As one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I do have a couple of my students here tonight, and trying to show you as a shining example. As we say, plot is character, character is plot. So here you have it, folks. Now I've got to ask, and you said yourself that science fiction is a great opportunity to put some of today's issues into a different context. So 2 big things. One is South Africa, which has a huge amount of baggage, and you said you decided that you wanted to set in South Africa. And then also with South Africa, or after South Africa, Exodus, giant beast, there's a little metaphor going on there.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you could expand on that. So it isn't just, I thought this was cool. There is more of a, there's quite a bit of depth behind it. And if you would share maybe a little, you don't have to give us all your secrets.
All secrets. Yeah, for Escaping Exodus, definitely there's a lot of things that are core issues like in my heart that I wanted to come out on the page. And like, so one of them is just like the environmental damage we're doing to the earth is very parallel to like the environmental damage that these people are doing to these beasts. Where they basically they're on a cycle where there's these giant moon-sized beasts, and they basically colonize it and then like use up all their resources over the course of like, you know, 10 or 20 years, and then abandon like the carcass and then find the next one, because there's like a giant herd of them. And so a lot of that is just like dealing with people not caring or not knowing about the waste that they're, you know, contributing to, and just showing the human side of that. And also just like how lives are valued. Like there's a very structural class system set up. There's like the beast workers, and like even there's like, you know, classes between beast workers, and then there's a contour class, which is kind of the ruling class and drives economy. There's accountancy guards who are in control of making sure like everything is in its place, and like counting, like they're called lash counters is kind of like a derogatory term for them, because they say their senses are so heightened they can like count how many eyelashes you have, and if you have too many they'll like send you to go get groomed or whatever. And so there's that side of it. And also just like living in a patriarchy, like I kind of flipped it, and like now we're living in a matriarchy that is just as horrible. And to show that is like, it's not so much like who's in charge, but like if there's just one group that's in charge is the problem, and not necessarily who that group is. And so just kind of like having fun experimenting with that. And like a lot of the men are unable to work outside the home, and one of the main characters is a man who's like their first accountancy guard to like male accountancy guard, and he's just kind of going through his own discrimination, and kind of what you would probably consider like the most feminist character in the book is him. And so I'm just like, I don't know, there's a lot going on because I tend to like cram it all in there. But yeah, it's kind of a lot. And yeah, and also like the Prey of Gods, just kind of seeing what life would look like. One of the characters is a demigoddess who has been like, she was alive during apartheid, and so like she's able to kind of reference that and bring it through to the future, and kind of some things like kind of stick with her. And there's like some of that same environmental type thing, species going extinct and kind of reviving them in their own way with like technology and all these other kind of, you know, trying to do good, but it definitely it's like they've been through their dystopia already, and they're kind of like on a utopian swing a little bit.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's out of the ordinary for some fiction world. As far as I know, it's usually kind of bleak, our futures.
It looks like, Joe, there is one question there from Brent.
Okay. Where did it say? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm not being able to see things.
Okay, it's up at toward the top, and it just says Numvula from Prayer of the Gods. What was your inspiration for her?
Oh, there.
Gosh, that is a good question. She was one of the character sketches that I had. I think it's just, you know, to show. When I did visit South Africa when I was in college, and so a lot of like my experiences, I try to tuck in. It's kind of like, I call it like a fictionalized travelogue, and so like a lot of my experiences I try to stick in. So like the dicks, like I remember seeing like these little antelope things running all around, and like my first meal there was like Tex-Mex, and so I like have that mentioned in there, which it was like not any kind of Tex-Mex I was familiar with, but I appreciated it. And then also we did visit a lot of the townships also, and so we got to meet some of the kids that were just like running around, and talk to them and see, you know, what their school life was like and their home life and like all those things. And so I think just like the kids kind of stuck with me because like, you know, you see their faces and they're just like so full of possibility. And so that's one of the things that I kind of like, I don't know, one of the things I cling to, I don't know, was just the kids and, you know, having that power. And she's very powerful. And so, you know, just, I don't know if that's probably it.
All right. And Brent says, I loved her name and the etymology of the name. It seems to truly fit her.
I think, yeah, I had fun picking that one out.
Jay Bird asks, did you like H.P. Lovecraft, and have you seen HBO's Lovecraft Country? Your world made me think of that. I loved the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have not read Lovecraft. I have seen one episode of Lovecraft Country. I like horror, but it's very hard for me to watch. So like I have to find daytime hours to watch it, which are not in big supply around here. But I like to see the show and see where it goes. I'm excited about that.
Okay, and you did mention, oh boy, I forgot the word already. Boy, I'm so sorry, but it's a word that links like you and Octavia Butler.
Oh, like Afrofuturism?
Afrofuturism, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I think for me, I think it means a lot of different things to like a lot of different people. But for me, it's imagining a future in which I could tell tales of like people who look like me. I think just being like, a person who's descended from slaves, a Black person living in America, a lot of my history has been erased and hidden and written over. And so it's just kind of a very frustrating place to be, I guess. And some of it there, you just got to dig for it, like really dig. But like in Afrofuturism, for me, it's just kind of doing some healing work on that end and like in the future. And so getting to like tell the stories that I want to tell and that I want to endure, hopefully. And I don't know, just having the space to do that and just basically saying this is the future and I exist in the future. So, but I don't know, I really enjoy it. And yeah, the sky is the limit.
Yes, nice. So you're not constrained by any frameworks. Lovely. Colson Whitehead kind of comes to mind, but he's more not future, just alternative.
Yeah.
He was here a couple of years ago for the Big Book Festival, which I'm going to miss this year. So sad. Other questions for Ms. Drayden? Well, one more question since you have students here. You said you took a couple of creative writing classes, but that wasn't your focus?
It was not my focus. I was planned to liberal arts major in college. And so we had a lot of like, I don't know, literature type classes. And so like I got some exposure there. There were some like creative writing classes and a lot of studying literature. And I always enjoyed that, but it was just a class. So I think, wherever you get your inspiration from, if it's, classwork or outside of class or going back to, to learn like the more technical and craft things, I think it's always good to learn craft and to like read books on craft. And also like for me, like studying screenplays is like helpful because it teaches you kind of more of the structural things that I don't think are necessarily as explicit sometimes in a lot of like writing craft books.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just like figure out how you want to learn. There's so many different ways to like learn how to write, and there as many as there are people out there. And I did have like a writing coach for a while too, and that was like a way that I was able to learn and study and learn craft that way. So there's like, I don't know, however you want to do it, just do it, whatever's comfortable for you. If you like the classroom setting, or you just want to, study on your own, or find somebody to help you, or join like forums or, different places where people are talking about those, like online community, or our writers workshops are a good place too, to get some instruction and feedback and kind of like point you in the right direction. So.
All right. Thank you so much, Nikki. And if we could give a warm round of virtual applause. I don't know what that looks like this.
Yeah, a lot of people do this.
Thank you very, very much. And remember, all of Ms. Drayden's publications are available through Malvern Books. And in February, you'll even have a new one to lose yourself in. Oh, thank you
Yeah,
so
buy a
much.
coffee, buy one for your friend. They make great presents. So
That's right.
there you go.
Christmas is coming.
So Malvern Books at 512-322-2097, located on 29th Street, a little bit west of Guadalupe.
That's right.
Well,
I'm going to
thank
go ahead
you
and stop
again.
the live stream. If you want to kick off the open mic and see if anybody wants to sign up in the chat box, Joe.